Hey there, my name is Craig and welcome to the fifth video in my series COVID in Film. Here I'll be discussing the 2020 movie Mank, directed by David Fincher. In the film Mank, success is tied to grave consequences. In a scene past the halfway mark, Herman J. Mankiewicz rushes to stop the release of conservative political films as the star Marion Davies leaves MGM Studios. These two releases, or exits, are tied together by director Fincher's use of cinematography, editing, set design, and score. Following conversations between Mank and his friend-turned-director Shelley Metcalfe, and then with studio executive Irving Thalberg, Mank hurries outside in a futile attempt to have Davies tell Louis B. Mayer to pull Metcalfe's anti-Upton Sinclair propaganda films. It's a very complicated situation involving a lot of characters, but which ultimately centers on Mank's guilt as he speaks with two friends, Davies and Metcalfe, about the films and their broader implications for the state of California and, on a micro level, how the films demonstrate the studio's powerful ability to manipulate everyone in their sphere, including Mank himself. So here, we follow Mank's very personal and also very hopeless journey to save his friends and their interests, as the metaphorical train of movie sets represents the exporting of Metcalfe's films. Mank races against the clock and the momentum of the action set in motion around him. In this scene, director David Fincher utilizes sound and motion to display both Mank's complicity in and his way out of publisher William Randolph Hearst's political machine. The scene slowly reveals its high stakes, with an opening wide shot of Louis B. Mayer handing Marion Davies a bouquet of flowers. With a team of photographers and reporters behind him, the score dreamily lilts around, and the camera doesn't stop as the viewer is drawn into the scene and Mank's point of view. The next shot shows Mank actually running, an action which I don't think we see him do anywhere else in the film, up to the camera as he passes groups of unconcerned studio workers, and as the score fills in with piercing high notes and metallic clunking sounds. We cut behind Mank, in the background of the media's photos of Mayer and Davies. Like so, Fincher positions us with Mank in the background of the main story of the film, that of the workings of MGM in the past timeline. During this time, Mank is used by Mayer and Hearst like a court jester, capable of entertaining the bigwigs but without any power of his own. In this relegated status far away from the paparazzi, though, we and Mank are given the critical distance to view and interpret the events happening at MGM, and then to take action. Fincher cuts between wide shots of Davies getting into and leaving in her car, and Mank starting to run again around the studio. As Davies leaves, Mayer stands stiffly behind the car and waves, an action repeated later in the scene. Here, with the procession of Davies and her assortment of film sets, Mayer is also releasing Shelley Metcalfe's propaganda films into the world, as highlighted by Mank's frantic chase after the convoy. We follow Mank through alleyways and cut to aerial shots of the moving film sets, their giant size underscored by the deep, thumping horns in the score. Also, the convoy moves across the screen from left to right as Mank runs in the opposite direction. But when Mank turns a corner to jump into Davies' car, he has to move right across the screen, foreshadowing his inability to stop the procession. Instead, he has to join it. While inside the car, Mank's status as a background character in Hollywood is reinforced. This section of the scene shifts between several different coverage angles on Mank and Davies, interspersed with exterior shots of the convoy. Shots on Mank are either from Davies' point of view or from a side angle, as if the audience is a third person in the car, sitting next to Mank and across from Davies. She has more angles, a wide shot from behind Mank's shoulder, a medium from the third person perspective next to Mank, in which we can see Mank's reflection in the window, a close-up from just off of Mank's perspective, and a closer version of that shot. This increase in coverage is complemented by Davies' costume and makeup design. As opposed to Mank's disheveled, sweaty look, with his hair tousled and his collar loose, Davies is fancily dressed in a light fur robe with a shiny pendant, her hair is perfectly coiffed, and her makeup is neat and accentuates her large eyes. As Mank runs to Davies and nearly begs her to turn around, Davies is more concerned with her appearances and her exit than with the implications of her actions or her failure to act.
Silly, but
But what? Why not?
I already made my exit.
Even though she offers to do anything for Mank, her well-calibrated physical appearances in photographs and in Fincher's film take precedence over the larger implications of her choices. This reasoning is very similar to Metcalfe's, He prioritizes his career progression and his ability to move up in MGM as a director over how his films will affect the public of California. The selfish attitudes of Davies and Metcalf are exemplified by Metcalf's cup of coffee, which burns his hand. While both of them have good reasons to make the decisions that they do, related to personal career preservation and progression, Fincher seems to tell us that their short-sighted perspectives jeopardize both their own welfare and that of the entire state. Their decisions come back to haunt them later, with Metcalf committing suicide on election night, and Davies being essentially parodied in Mank's screenplay for Citizen Kane. The final part of this scene shows how Mank can emerge from the background. Mank utilizes humor and satire to gain power in Hollywood. After Davies explains why she can't go back, the convoy screeches to a halt to allow Mank to have his own exit from the car. Mank goes behind the car and waves to Davies as the convoy heads out. This move is similar to Mayer's previous wave, but this time Davies reciprocates. Then Mank breaks his promise and begins to laugh about Davies' reason for not wanting to go back. Mank walks away from the camera, laughing and coughing, and we fade to black as the score thumps to a close. In this last segment of the scene, Mank recalls Mayer with one key difference: the media. Instead of in-world photographers and reporters, Fincher's camera documents this exchange and offers an unflattering portrait of Mank. Despite his best intentions and his physical exertion, he is unable to reverse the course of Davies' convoy or of Shelley Metcalf's films. Like Mayer, he can only wave as these things move into the outside world, and the only thing left for him to do is laugh, breaking his promise to Davies and contrasting with Mayer's stiff goodbye. But the laugh turns into a cough, signaling the toll of Mank's efforts to emerge from the background. He is obviously able to do so as he takes Mayer's place in the scene, which he previously admired from a distance. This recalls Irving Thalberg's disparaging comments about Mank's work ethic and shows that through a bit of exertion and the desire to make up for past mistakes, and some laughter and broken promises, Mank can make a name for himself and stand center stage in a film of his own. He will go on to write the screenplay for Citizen Kane and fight for writing credit, and in doing so comment on the hypocrisy and manipulations of William Randolph Hearst. The sad part is that Mank acted too late and allowed his wit and flippancy to set unwanted events in motion. He can only make up for the death of Metcalf and the passivity of Davies through satirical criticism and drama, through a story based on real people. With a critical reevaluation of his actions, Mank the person and the film can tell the complicated stories of two great men who emerge from the background to control the narrative of a nation. Mank was my favorite movie from 2020 and stuck with me throughout 2021 as I listened non-stop to the score. I directed a play at my college and used the score as pre-show music, and it really helped set the tone for what I imagined the play to feel like. I found out that the score was recorded during the pandemic, and so the orchestral instruments had to be taped independently and edited together. You can see this approach elsewhere in the film, how the narrative flips between timelines, memories, and locations, and finds a way to stitch these fragments together into a narrative that explains the mindset of Mank and sets up the ideas explored in Citizen Kane. Based on what I talk about in this video essay and how the film emphasizes the importance of long-term goals and values over short-term gains and appearances, Mank seems to suggest that it's all about looking far forward and planning ahead, instead of focusing on the desires of the powerful in the present or on what we have in front of us right now. It's better for people to work together, combine their efforts, and appreciate the sum of their parts. In the world of the movie, that means working together to elect Upton Sinclair as governor. For David Fincher and composers Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, that meant navigating the pandemic to stitch together a score from separate pieces. And in the world during COVID, that may have meant finding productive ways to stay connected and avoid total isolation. Personally, that's something that I struggled with, and in hindsight, I wish I had made even more of an effort to reach out to my friends and family and stop being lazy and allowing myself to become separated and then trapped in my separation. Another strategy, looking at Mank, is to use isolation to really dig deep and create something amazing. Thanks for watching.